Hello, it's Romanosky from Calgary, Canada, and I'm shooting from the Lugnutz facility. And what we have in front of us here is a Toyota Prius. And so there's nothing too extraordinary about Toyota Priuses, apart from sort of the sales success and stats which go along with it. I mean, I think I read that 70% of all the hybrid vehicles on the road today are Toyota Priuses. Maybe that stat's a little bit older now, but I think it's fair to say that although, I think the Toyota was the first hybrid. That and the Honda Insight came in the late 1990s, 1999. The Insight was almost like a prototype, whereas the Prius was like a real car with real practicality and real sales volume. So the Prius has now branched out into many different models and so forth, and has really sort of made its mark on the automotive landscape. It's popularized hybrid vehicles. We've seen virtually taxi fleets the world over convert to Priuses. If you go look at the airport at the staging area for taxis, you'll see 100 vehicles, and 90 of them are Toyotas, and of those 90, 80 of them are Priuses, at least in this area. That speaks to the overall reliability and cost of ownership and cost of operation, which make a Prius, and particularly a used Prius, among the most affordable modes of transportation, or at least for a car out there. And part of my decision to buy this Prius and decision to buy other Priuses are just that, overall cost of ownership. Because although, you know, we've sold $500,000 cars here, fancy Aston Martins and Ferraris and BMWs and Mercedes, etc., and that's the core of our business. The fact is, I get a lot of requests from people who, even wealthy clients, who want a car for their kid, want a car for their nanny, or you know, my own friends who aren't car people, and frankly, they just have other priorities for their money, mostly homes and kids and so forth, families. And they ask me for a car, like you're in the car business. I just want a car that's going to be reliable, that I don't have to spend a lot of money on repairs, that is inexpensive to buy, and that offers me an overall low cost of ownership. You know, what do you recommend? And you know, the answer is usually a 10-year-old Japanese or Korean car, okay? And if I took that whole subset of Japanese, 10-year-old or greater Japanese or Korean cars, and thought, well, what is the most reliable, economical, best resale, lowest overall cost of ownership? That's probably a Toyota Prius. Okay. The problem with that is finding them in nice shape, because they have, like, you know, at least around here, 200,000 and 300,000 kilometers on that. Also, and I think most importantly, the corrosive salt gravel mixture they put on the roads in Calgary and other places where you get winter wreaks havoc with the underneath of the car, rusting suspension components solid in as little as 5 years, where you have to use a torch or a cutting wheel to get them off. So, and these cars, you know, on the prairies and in Calgary, they're used. You know, the people buy these to drive them. They're not cherished collector cars. And so the cars you find for sale are ones that have had, you know, like I said, 200,000 or 300,000 kilometers on them. Which got me to looking for places to buy the cars where they didn't have such high mileage, or we had more choice as to which ones to buy, and where they didn't use road salt, and that led me to Japan. And there's an almost infinite supply of really low kilometer nicely maintained, well preserved cars where you jack them up on the hoist, and we'll show you those pictures later, where they're not corroded underneath, which means if you go in there to replace a brake or a suspension piece or do any of the normal maintenance, you just put the wrench on and undo it. And I'm telling you, what we see here every day is that cars come in for simple maintenance procedures and they wind up taking a life of their own, and great frustration to anybody who's working on them because the parts just don't come apart anymore. And Toyota is really lousy when it comes to corrosion protection. They have all kinds of problems with pickup trucks with rusty frames and so on, and class action lawsuits and so on. For whatever reason, they don't coat the fasteners very well or protect the underbody very well. And the cars that are local are horribly rusted. So this is a JDM car. It's an 09 Prius. They have to be 15 years old to bring them in the country. 2009 at this point in time, or when I bought this, was the newest car I could bring in from Japan. It's so 09 Toyota Prius with only 50,700 kilometers on it. And looking through all the photographs and reports and auction reports and so forth on the car, I knew this was going to be a clean car. We got it here, and it is, and we have all those photographs. If you walk around it and look at all the panels and take a good look at the interior and the carpets and the seats and the bolsterware and the sills and all those wear points that normally cars have, the bumpers, the trunk, the trunk area, especially for a volume production car that would mostly be used for children who just, at least my own kids do, destroy cars. So if you look through this car, and nobody told you what year it was, you might think it was a couple years old car. There is no way you would think it is a 15-year-old car. When I was selling new cars in car dealerships, all the high-end cars from Ferrari to Aston to Bentley to Mercedes, over a 20-year lifespan, the demos that had 5,000 kilometers on them that were current model year did not look this good. They had rock chips on them, and they had pits in the windshield. You just won't find cars driven in Alberta that, unless if they're driven in the winter at least, that don't have rock chips. It's just that bad here. And so this car, I don't think has a single rock chip in the windshield. You have to look really, really hard to find anything on the front end of the car. Like there literally is nothing there. It's a completely chip-free front end, front bumper cover, and windscreen. So this just doesn't exist here. You cannot, unless you found a car unless you found a Prius that was only summer driven, which is highly unlikely, you just wouldn't find this car here. You have to go somewhere else to buy it. And really Japan is this sort of, has a huge concentration of cars like this, just the combination of a very sort of rigorous inspection process, licensing process, nice climate, and the cars just aren't driven that much. I guess there's a catch. The steering wheel's on the wrong side. You have to learn how to drive it. Your insurance company may not want to give you full coverage on it. You might have to shop around for insurance companies. You might have to get used to driving a right-hand drive car. But I can tell you from driving old vintage Bentleys, I've got a Toyota Century that's right-hand drive. I've been driving this. You get used to it pretty quick. It really, and after a while, you really don't think about it too much. I mean, in Europe, English cars are right-hand drive, but many people from the UK take them to the continent to drive. There's both left-hand drive and right-hand drive cars running around the continental Europe. It takes a little bit of acclimatization, but after that, you've got it. The only problem I have is when I switch from left-hand drive to right-hand drive. The stalks are in different places, so I kind of have to think about, okay, well that's the signal light here. This is the light switch over here, etc. But you get used to it, and as far as I'm concerned, this is a small price, small inconvenience to pay to get, you know, a really nice car that's really clean. So I gladly have that compromise. May not be for everybody, but if you can, you know, if you can kind of deal with the fact that it's right-hand drive, and maybe phone around for some, you know, insurance company that gives you the coverage you want, I think it makes a lot of sense. So that's my pitch for a JDM 15-year-old Toyota Prius. And you know, frankly, I bought this car for me because, you know, I'm tired of getting 20 liters per 100 kilometers in my Range Rover, okay? So I'm gonna buy this to drive the kids to school. This one will be for sale. Others like this are coming in that are for sale. I'm also bringing in some Honda Insights, which are a very similar vehicle as well. So we're gonna play around with it and bring in some cars. And I can't be the only one who thinks this is a good deal and you know, a good answer to, you know, many people's sort of mobility needs. So, you know, with this car, it gives you the opportunity to get a car that looks almost new, very low kilometers, 50,000 kilometers, for you know, for less than, well, about a quarter the price of a new Prius. Okay, 25% of the cost up front. And when I did my analysis, you know, of you know, depreciation, so what you buy the car for versus what you sell the car for, the annual maintenance of the car, and the annual fuel costs of the car. And I do that. I have big spreadsheets. I track this stuff. I've studied it, you know, for my whole career. And I came to the conclusion that this car right here would offer you the lowest cost of ownership for a reliable car of any other car for sale. So if your primary objective is reliable transportation at the lowest cost, you won't do better than this car, because a new one is 60 plus. So your upfront cost is low. If you're financing the car, the amount you're financing is very low. Okay. Took it out in your line of credit or something like that, it would be not a lot of interest or not a lot of opportunity cost if you paid cash for the car. It has 50,000 kilometers on it now. If you run a 5-year, you know, a 5-year pro forma or predictive analysis of what it's going to cost you, I think in 5 years, if you put 20,000 kilometers a year, you know, the car will be 20 years old, but it'll have 150,000 kilometers on it. It's a Toyota Prius. You know, I would anticipate that this car is still worth half of what you paid for it. So somebody's going to pay you. It's still going to be reliable transportation. So, you know, reliable transportation, somebody's going to pay you $6,000 or $7,000 for that. Okay, so you're going to run this car for 5 years. It's going to cost you, you know, about $1,200 a year in depreciation. Maintenance costs on a Prius are very low. If you budgeted $500 a year to maintain this car, you would have money left over. And then if you take your fuel costs even, you know, you're going to get 5 liters per 100 kilometers on this car. Your annual fuel cost is probably going to be something around $1,200 or $1,300. Follow up, we'll do a walk around video on the car. Aidan will do a slow pan on everything. We have shots underneath the car, so I can give you that video showing you the underneath of it. And of course, the car has come fully inspected and roadworthy, as you would probably assume, but you can verify. I'll show you under the hood. 3-liter hybrid hybrid engine with a nickel metal hydrate battery, not lithium ion. So, you know, not as energy dense as lithium ion, also a fraction of the cost to replace. Replacing a hybrid battery pack on a new Prius, you know, might be $20,000 or something like that or more. Replacing the battery pack on this car, I just looked online and there was lots of examples for $1,000. I think that might have been US, but still, it's not the super expensive lithium-ion battery packs. But anyway, if you look around the car, you look at all the fasteners, the labels, you know, the condition really speaks for itself. It looks like a one-year-old car. You know, and where most people avoid the dealers, just because the bills just don't seem to make any sense at all. I think Toyota is a little bit different because I bought a new Sienna and a new Tundra as family cars. And, you know, when I took those cars to the dealership, I found the prices to be extremely reasonable. So this is even a car you can just take to the dealer. A quality independent, a nice independent as well, no problem there too. Okay, so we're looking at the bottom of this 09 Prius. Now, Toyota is the gold standard for many things, production efficiency and quality, residual value, longevity, reliability, et cetera, et cetera. You know, these Priuses are used as taxis, and you know, many have 300,000 and 400,000 kilometers on them. And if you go to the airport and look at a line of taxis, there's a good chance that half of them or more are Priuses, and just about all of them are Toyotas. Okay. Now, what they don't do particularly well is corrosion prevention, and you know, in the saltier climates like Calgary. With long winters, you know, and we use a particularly brutal cocktail of road salt, and this really affects the undercarriage of the cars, and particularly the Toyotas. So whatever they're doing, or however they're making it, or whoever their suppliers are, you know, for the fasteners and various parts and so on, it's not a thick coating, it's not a robust coating, and you know, Toyota's gotten in trouble with, you know, frames cracking on pickup trucks or rusting through on pickup trucks, et cetera. And even on some of the late model Toyotas, you know, that I've bought, like Sienna and a Tundra, you know, the fasteners particularly rust really quickly. So this car is 15 years old, and we can, you know, really get a look at it. And what's really impressive about it is that, you know, none of the fasteners have started to corrode, and there is only the faintest whiff of corrosion anywhere on the underneath of this car. I mean, it is, you know, as close to spotless as you could ever reasonably expect a 2009 car with 50,000 kilometers to have. Particularly a mass market one that wasn't that expensive to buy. I mean, normally these things just dissolve. Okay, so but in Japan, you know, it's a moderate climate and no salt and so forth, and very clean. And I mean, look at the exhaust on this; it looks brand new. And so, you know, you can see there's a couple little areas where, you know, for whatever reason, those fasteners have a, you know, you can see one of them got a little corrosion, the other ones don't. So for whatever reason, some of those fasteners are a little bit different than others. But if you look around it, you know, like we get cars in Lugnutz all the time that, you know, they're 5 years old, and the owner goes to try to replace the shocks, and the bolt won't come off and it has to be cut off. That happens all the time. So, you know, if we look under here, all the brake lines, you know, it's all, it all looks really excellent. And then of course with the Toyota as well, you know, there's just no leaks anywhere. It's completely dry as a bone. There's no leaks from the steering box. Well, I guess it has electric steering in this car, so it wouldn't. But you know, you know, any of the ancillary components or whatever, it's just absolutely, absolutely bone dry. You know, the front of all these cars is pretty vulnerable. We do see, you know, a little bit of scraping there, but all these fasteners are in place. I mean, we can reach the oil filter without having to take off these plastic panels. What happens is, you know, if a car is designed so that the plastic under tray covers the oil filter and that the tech has to take off the panel to change the oil, what we find when the cars are even a few years old is those panels don't exist anymore, or the fasteners are all gone or half there, or you know, the pieces are broken. So that's, you know, that's a sensible design right there for routine maintenance. You can just reach the filter. This is, you know, basically like paper, and we can see that it's got a little bit chewed up here and a little bit chewed up here in the low points, but that's it. A little bit of marking here, where you'd expect. But you know, the front bumper cover isn't damaged. There's no cracking to it. It looks all original to me. It doesn't look like it's been replaced ever. All these fasteners look original. It doesn't look like this has ever been apart. Okay, so this is I think, for me anyway, the big advantage of a low kilometer JDM car is you just get something that is in so much nicer condition than anything you find locally. And yeah, you have to put up with a few idiosyncrasies with the car and Japanese writing, and of course the wheels on the right-hand side. But for me, this is a welcome trade-off, because for a comparatively small amount of money, you can get you know, something that you know, isn't that far off what a brand new car would be, you know, for a fraction of the cost. Okay, so I think a new Prius is probably $50,000 or something, so or more. So for, you know, less than a third the cost, you can have essentially the same car and you know, very, very similar running costs. So from as a point I've mentioned before in the video, from an overall cost of ownership, getting a really good condition, low mileage, 15-year-old Toyota Prius probably offers you the lowest overall cost of ownership of any car, any year, anywhere, like that you could buy. Okay, that's my expert opinion on the matter, and then that's why I'm bringing over some of these really low kilometer JDM cars. So with that, the car is at Lugnutz. I will drive this car around. I'm gonna get used to it, but it can always be here and be ready to view. And so if you're interested in this 2009 50,000 kilometer, might have a little bit more because I'll be driving it, but around 50,000 kilometer Toyota Prius, you know, this one is available. If it sells, others will be available. And like I said, there's an almost infinite supply in Japan to buy from. It takes about 3-4 months to get them here. So, you know, you can't order a car, request a car, and get it overnight. They take a while. They come on the big roll-on, roll-off ships to the port of New Westminster in BC. So, and then they get trucked from there. So with that, Lawrence Romanosky from Calgary, Canada, and the Lugnutz facility. And I hope the first of many really clean, low mileage JDM hybrids and economy cars that we'll be getting to satisfy the market that I know exists, certainly a lot larger than the other markets we pursue, of people who want reliable, low-cost transportation.